Hi everyone, my name is Michael Harris and my presentation is called Dopamine and Motivation in Exercise. I chose this topic because I wanted to understand how the brain drives motivation, especially when it comes to a physical activity. We usually think of motivation as pure determination, but it's actually something much deeper that starts in the brain. Throughout this presentation, I'll explain how dopamine works, what different studies have found, and how understanding it can help us create stronger habits in not only fitness, but daily life. Dopamine is often known as the motivation molecule. It's a neurotransmitter that controls reward, pleasure, and drive. Whenever we accomplish something or even just expect success, our brain releases dopamine. This release makes us feel good and motivates us to keep repeating the same behavior. In exercise, that connection between effort and reward is what keeps us consistent. The harder we work, the more our brain rewards us, and that throughout that positive cycle, helping building long-term motivation. I've always been really into fitness and performance, but I noticed that my motivation isn't always the same. Some days I feel really ready to train, and other days it feels like a struggle to even start. I wanted to understand what causes that change, so by learning about dopamine, it helped me understand that motivation isn't random at all. It's a chemical process that can be shaped and trained. Once I understood that, I started realizing why good habits matter so much and how to keep motivation more consistent. I also think that this knowledge can help anyone who struggles to stick with their goals and move forward with them. Dopamine helps control motivation, movement, and focus. During exercise, dopamine is released in areas of the brain that process reward, like the striatum and prefrontal cortex. That's what gives you the satisfying feeling after a workout. Over time, the more we move, the stronger those pathways become. The brain learns to connect effort with pleasure, which is why regular exercisers often say they crave movement. So dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's what keeps us moving, pushing forward, and wanting to repeat positive behaviors. In 2022, Ruiz Tejada and colleagues reviewed how dopamine affects voluntary physical activity. They found that dopamine activates reward centers in the brain and helps make exercise more enjoyable. The more consistently people exercise, the more sensitive those reward centers become, showing that staying active literally trains your brain to enjoy activity. Over time, this creates a positive feedback loop where exercising feels less like a chore and more like something you look forward to doing. This study really showed how motivation can grow naturally through consistency. The second study by Sampedro, Piquero, and Begega looked at brain imaging data. They found that physically active people showed stronger activation in their reward systems compared to sedentary individuals. Their research proved that movement changes how the brain reacts to effort. The more you move, the more your brain connects hard work with reward. That's such an important finding because it shows that motivation can be learned. By building routines and keeping active, our brains adapt to make that motivation more automatic. The third study by Dij, Kisterhuis, and Nordgren focused on unconscious thought. They discovered that dopamine influences our decisions even when we're not aware of it. It's always working in the background, shaping what we do and what we find rewarding. This helps explain why once you build a solid exercise routine, it starts to feel automatic. You don't have to think about it as much because your brain has already linked the habit with a sense of reward. It becomes second nature, which is a sign of how powerful dopamine really is. Understanding dopamine has a lot of real world uses. For athletes, coaches, or students, it helps to set smaller and more realistic goals that trigger frequent dopamine rewards. Every time you hit one of those goals, your brain gives you a small boost that keeps motivation going. This also applies to learning or studying. When you break big tasks into smaller steps, you stay engaged longer. It's all about rewarding progress instead of waiting for perfection. That approach keeps energy up and makes challenging goals feel more doable. Dopamine doesn't just affect motivation, it also helps with learning memory and focus. Regular exercise increases dopamine levels, which supports attention and mental clarity. People who stay active tend to process information faster, handle stress better, and have an overall more positive outlook. That's why exercise is linked to better academic performance and emotional health. When your body is active, your brain benefits too. It's all connected through this same reward system. This topic really matters because it changes how we think about motivation. It's not about being lazy or having no determination, it's about how your brain's chemistry responds to effort and reward. When you understand that, you can actually work with your brain instead of against it. You can build habits that trigger dopamine naturally, like exercising regularly, celebrating small wins, and staying consistent. Once you do that, progress starts to feel easier and more enjoyable. To wrap everything up, dopamine is the main link between effort, motivation, and reward. Regular exercise strengthens these dopamine pathways, helps us stay consistent, and making movement more enjoyable. Over time, it changes how the brain sees effort, turning hard work into something positive. That's why people who train regularly often say they love the process. This connection shows how understanding the brain can help anyone stay consistent, feel better mentally, and reach goals more effectively and efficiently. These three studies and readings helped me understand how dopamine and motivation work together during exercise. They really showed and explained to us how our brain's reward system keeps us moving and makes habits stick. Learning this not only reminded me that motivation isn't just about pushing yourself, but it is about working with your brain, not against it.